So about a month and a half ago, I posted a video about what are the worst roofing materials, and I called out asphalt shingles, rightfully so. They have one of the lowest lifespans on the market, and internationally it's a joke. Quite frankly, most of the world doesn't believe in asphalt shingles like Americans and Canadians do. And I've gotten a lot of pushback for that, and so one of the common arguments you hear about why asphalt shingles are still great is because, well, most homes have them. About 60% of American residential work is done with shingles. And so why is that? Well, the history of asphalt shingles is actually pretty bad. Back in the early 1900s in America, a guy by the name of Henry Reynolds developed his own brand of shingles where he would cut them out of asphalt-saturated felt paper. Now, what's interesting and what's hilarious about this, in my opinion, is the fact that even for his best products on the market, he was only putting a 10-year guarantee on them. And that wasn't against wind, that wasn't against hail, that was 10 years versus sun. And this didn't really improve much for decades. Now, it did get a little bit better over time, but what's funny about this is even the modern day shingle only comes with a 30-year warranty, and it knows that that warranty is garbage. It knows that it will never, ever be claimed on that warranty, because that warranty isn't 30 years in the sun. That warranty is, we guarantee you won't discover a defect within 30 years. But it knows that hail will come around, wind will come around, excessive moisture will be present on the roof. There's thousands of little exemptions that they find. It's extremely rare that warranties ever kick in. And even then, the majority of warranties kick in within the first few years. Typically, that defect is found within the first 5 to 10 years. It's very rare that you have a 25-year-old roof getting called in for a warranty claim, unless when that shingle was popular back, when it was still going through that early 10 years of constant warranty claims, there was a class action lawsuit against it. That's about the only time you hear of a more than 20-year-old roof getting a warranty claim approved is because of a class action lawsuit that happened in the past. And so where asphalt shingles gained their popularity was during the Great Depression. People weren't looking for those 50 to 100-year roofs anymore. The priority was no longer longevity. It used to be, the mentality was that you would put the roof on 1 to 2 times in your lifetime. Maybe a couple more if you lived in really bad areas that had some really horrible weather patterns. But for the most part, you weren't expected to do your roof every 7 to 10 years like you are nowadays. 20 years in, areas that don't get the worst weather. And during the Great Depression, the emphasis was no longer on longevity, it was on price. We need to get my roof to stop leaking long enough that the house doesn't collapse, the deck doesn't rot, we don't get black mold. That was the mentality back then. It was only meant to be a temporary solution, essentially. I mean, in my opinion, 10 years is a temporary solution. 30 years is a temporary solution on a roof, frankly. And unfortunately, as we recovered from the Great Depression, we never really recovered that mentality. There was also this mentality that started to develop of people fixing and flipping homes. So they'd go in, put on a new roof. Hey, they bought cheap garbage, and now guess what? That's the next person's problem, because who cares? They just sold the home. Same with property managers. They don't care because they know most people aren't going to stick with the same property manager for 30 years. They know if they put on that roof once or twice, and plus it's not their dime anyway. And unfortunately, the American contractors met this same standard. The interest is not in selling quality as much as it is selling, period. You know that if you go in with the best product every time, you're going to lose the majority of the market. So unless you're a really well-established company, you have no choice but to install some of the shadiest, just scummiest roofs you've ever met. Roofs that in a couple of years are going to fail, because you can't walk away from a $30,000, $40,000 opportunity for you. Especially if you're trying to build up your crews and get reliable people. They're not going to want gaps between work. They're going to want to go from one job to the next. They're not going to want big breaks. Most of them don't even want to break for like a day or two, other than your weekends and your holidays. So you're forced to sell what you're forced to sell. So I don't blame American contractors. I don't blame any contractor that sells shingles. Now, if they promote it as the best system out there, then I blame them. Because there's nowhere that shingles outperform tile when it's properly installed. There's nowhere that they outperform slate when it's properly installed. And they especially don't outperform proper metal roof. Now I'm talking hidden fastener metal. I'm not going to get started on the debate between exposed fasteners versus shingles, because quite frankly, they both shouldn't even be allowed. And the same thing applies to commercial roofs. Commercial roofs tend to lean towards the cheapest material, which is why you saw TPO gain such a huge share of the market. Not only is it massively available, but you can tend to get the material cheaper than others, and the maintenance for the first couple years is a lot less. Some systems do require a bit of maintenance in the first 5 years. I mean, it's not much. And overall, the cost is less over the course of a 20-year span. But again, it's about that upfront cost that it came from that Depression era and that Depression era mentality. And since then, we still have that mentality combined with the fix and flip attitude. And then now, asphalt shingles are seen as the pretty option too. And I'll grant, getting a nice, pretty metal roof can be expensive. Tile can be very expensive. And getting a nice design on a roof is extremely expensive, because other than asphalt shingles, there aren't too many options out there that have that kind of variety, that color pattern out there that's really beautiful. Even tile, at its best, really doesn't have much of a design to it. Yeah, you can get multiple colors that are blended in, but it's not going to match how pretty asphalt shingles are. To match it, you usually need a roof that has a special design printed on it. And printed designs are typically TPO, EPDM, PVC. Those are very expensive, especially to put a slope roof on. And when it's sloped, it also can become quite dangerous. So there's an understanding why asphalt shingles is extremely popular. However, despite the fact that they're extremely popular, they're still the worst residential material as far as longevity. And not to mention the amount of labor you spend on something so incredibly simple. The odds of an asphalt shingle roof failing due to installation are significantly higher than any other system. And so that's just kind of an explanation of, yes, asphalt shingles are the worst roof out there as far as residential goes, but there's a reason why they're also the most popular.